Welcome to another exciting edition of Game Changers. Today we have one of the giants that is making an impact in Africa, and this is none other than Masai Ujiri, the co-founder of Giants of Africa, a man who has continued to blaze the trail and making an impact across Africa's sports, business and entertainment scene. He's our guest for today. Welcome, Mr. Masai Ujiri.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great.
You doing okay?
Awesome. Great to have you on Game Changers.
Yes.
And you in Kigali, big milestone being launched here, and this is Zaria Court. I just want to know how big of an investment is this for the sports ecosystem in Rwanda, and what was the idea behind it?
Thanks for having me. It's been, I think it's been a journey in sports where we're trying to make the continent understand what the business of sports really is. We don't really see sports as a business. We see it as recreation, we see it as competition. So we're trying to get more people, more governments, more officials to understand what sports is, and you can see what President Kagame here built in terms of an arena, which it's an economic driver. You can make money from, use it for concerts, for games, for many activities. You see a stadium that's iconic. And then what's the environment around it? And it's that ecosystem we want to build where, whether it's restaurants, sports bars, event centers, amphitheaters, shops like we're on now, gyms where people play, and they also engage in many different activities that have to do with our culture, and they engage in sports. And this leads to that whole ecosystem being built, and this is how it's done in the Western world, and it's amazing. So much money is made, so much jobs are created, so many youth are inspired and also developed in this. And that's kind of how we thought about this space in relation to the stadium and the arena.
I'd like to know what triggered and what's the biggest inspiration behind this.
I grew up in northern Nigeria up to when I was 18, 19 years old, before I left to go play ball in the States, and go to school in the States. But for me, what triggers me is to see the excitement, the talent we have on the continent with all this youth. And it's in everything, in every aspect. You see it in sports, you see it in music, you see it in food, you see it in entertainment, you see it in across every different works of life. The African talent is rising. Artists, you see this different artwork. It's incredible. And sometimes with these things, they don't, because we don't see sports or entertainment as a business, they don't even get the opportunity to play in our own continent. You think about the music stars we have now with Afrobeats or Amapiano, and they can't even play on the continent in places where it's monetized and there's a direction or there's organization in a meaningful way. And we're trying to change that on the continent by building infrastructure. And I think this sports city that's built here is going to be a template for everybody to see. We must do, we mustn't talk. Yeah, we must always have action, because you know what? These courts, they create incredible creativity for us, and they create community. The courts create community, yes. And these venues create value, right? Yes, and the ecosystem creates economy. And economy is going to bring about jobs for our youth and happiness.
Many African leaders see sports as a co-curricular. It's not something that can be mainstreamed to become an economic engine for the country. Just the other day, we saw BAL happening in Rwanda, with the finals happening down in Pretoria, South Africa. And one of the biggest issues has been, how can leadership be at the front and center when it comes to looking at sports, not only as just another pastime activity?
Not against any government. The truth is the government, it doesn't favor sports. Yeah, so they see sports as competition and they see sports as recreation. So we prepare for the Olympics, we prepare for AFCON. Yeah, but when all of that is not going on, we claim we're doing youth sports, we claim we're doing interstate sports, and it's not building sports as a business, you know, and that's the way we need to look at it. That's one thing. The second thing is a lot of minister of sports, that ministry controls sports in a country. Yeah, correct. And the leaders and the people that are put in these positions, most of the time, they don't understand or have the knowledge because they have been brought from another sector, and kind of it's a favor to give them this position. And I'm not putting anybody down, but it's time that we look at sports differently. We bring in experts. Every country brings in experts, even if it's to advise these ministers to take it to another level. But you know what? I think we've complained about that too much. Now it's time to force the issue. Yeah, and now we have to bring it to the forefront. We can't keep complaining about governments. We can't keep complaining about ministers and all of that. You know, now we have to take responsibility, do it privately if that's, you know, like what it takes, or, you know, like we force these governments to really like see it. And that's why we built this template, so they can actually see it. There were a few governments here like visiting when we did the opening yesterday, so they can actually see how it works live.
Assembling financing is not an easy affair when it comes to setting up infrastructure. When you travel across Africa, you get to see aged infrastructure, old stadiums, little to no arenas, but the conversation is slowly changing. What would be the approach that would be a good working model for Africa to see real estate investment and also recoup your investment? Because as it stands, many of the facilities are run down, and you did make a very interesting speech where you say they just get to paint them when you have a big tournament coming. They cut the grass, fix the leaking roofs, and everything is back to normal. Could it be that we don't attract enough private capital?
Yes, we don't attract enough private capital, but the problem, Avi, is we don't see sports as a business. So every city you go to in Africa, we've done the feasibility studies, every city has a space like this. It's an old space. By the way, 10 years ago, this was that old space, and he had the vision, President Kagame had the vision to see it, to make it evolve. Yeah, so every city has these stadiums and this space. Basically, they have arenas, they have stadiums together, and everywhere you go on the continent, you have this in the middle of the city. At the time, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, these were built outside the city almost. The cities have grown, urbanization, whatever, the population growth. Cities have grown so much that these properties and real estate are now in the middle of the city. So how do we leave them there? Because it's sports, yes, not much is put into it, not much thought is put into it, and it's not developed. Yeah, it's not developed. You're right. They'll paint it, yeah, they put lipstick, you do this, you do that, and all of a sudden it's ready for African Cup of Nations, or it's ready for this, or it's ready for that. And then all of a sudden, you know, nothing is happening there for 2 or 3 years. How are we not monetizing? You know, even some of these spaces, they use them for churches, they use them for weddings. It's not organized properly. And you can actually monetize this way, rather than somebody bringing in a wedding or church. It can actually be very well organized.
And when you travel across Africa, and of course I do know you have engagements that you're already in talks with different leaders, I'd like to know where next after Kigali. You've done an incredible investment here that will be sustainable. And are there other countries you're looking at? And have you gotten to a point where you've given up when you are not being able to break through to some of the leaders?
No, it's not something I'll ever give up, because I think these leaders, they actually have the heart. I think I'm not saying there's not many important things, like there are much more important things than sports in running a country, but we also have to look at, I think, the engagement of the youth, and how what we're looking at the world and the globe right now it's a youthful movement. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter what country you're looking at. And by the way, this continent is the most youthful country. So yeah, if we're talking about arenas and spaces to play, and you talk about Nairobi, and you talk about Lagos, and you talk about Accra, you talk about Abidjan, and you talk about Johannesburg, and they tell you that there's no arenas in any of those cities, yeah, like, wow, yeah, what is going on here? Yeah, if you went to America and they said there was no arena in Washington or in New York or LA, then or Chicago, you'd be like, wow. Yes, the second mistake we all make is football stadiums are iconic. Yes, they are symbols. You need a couple of them, but they don't make. It's difficult to monetize a 45,000 seater. Yeah, there are very few people that can sell those out. Yeah, the arena is the money maker, is the economic engine you're talking about, and we need to start thinking this way. We need to start driving our minds, towards this. And when you build that ecosystem, yes, that performer definitely works.
All right. And looking at the big picture, of course, $26 million going into Zaria court is not pocket change. And we're looking at other opportunities in other countries, and of course, getting the right mindset and getting the right investors on board. I'd like to know, what does the future look like for African sports and entertainment scene? Where are you seeing opportunity? What are your next priorities in terms of now that you're also on break?
Yeah, it's interesting, I think people are going to get tired of me now, but this next 1 year is going to be there's going to be a driving force, behind everything we do on the continent, whether it's the NBA, whether it's infrastructure, or whether it's competition, however, whether it's youth development. I take pride in that. This is my continent, it's my home, and in terms of investments, I think you have to have a proof of concept. You have to have, as you said, a template that people see and they know it moves.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap on this week's edition of Game Changers. Quite a profound, phenomenal inspiration from Masai Ujiri, co-founder, Giants of Africa. Until next time, keep safe.